Bonjour les artisans, bonjour les artisans. This is Sandrine with Studio Artisan, and today I thought we could do a little video on all the tools that I use for my little kids woodworking. I've been teaching woodworking to little kids for the past 5 years maybe, and a lot of parents ask me what tool they could get for their kids to keep going. I have teacher asking me as well, so I'm like, you know what, maybe we'll do a little video today on what tool do I use and why did I choose those ones. So first thing is talk about safety. So your kids, if you teach, should always wear some safety glasses. I got those one on Amazon, and I will put a little link below if you want to get some. They are fairly small and they do fit little faces, like as young as 3 years old. I don't know if you can see it. They would not fit on me, but they're really fun. They have different colors and kids usually have no problem wearing them. You should be wearing them too. So you're showing the example, and the kids love actually looking like professional woodworkers. So they usually wear them with no problem. So safety glasses. The next thing is you never want to have your kids you want the kids to have their hands on tools. So the wood needs to be held by something. So I use a vise, and I usually use those one. They are from Lowe's. I think they in the $30 range, and they've been pretty good. They have like a little screw here that you can clamp to any table fairly easily. You can move them, so if you don't have a dedicated space at home or garage, you could actually put that maybe on a kitchen table. Make sure you just put like a little piece of wood or cardboard to protect your table. But they're fairly easy for the kids to open the mouth or to close it with their two little hands and then to tie it up. So when I teach little kids, obviously my little bench, even though those benches are adjustable, they're still too high for the little kids. So I have built a couple of those benches, which is basically 2 by 8, and they're pretty firm. They don't really move when the kids are sewing, so they work pretty well, and I can actually clamp my vise onto them. Next things also that you want to have, it's clamp. I have many clamps, and there's never enough clamp in your shop, but for the little kids, I like to use those ones. I think I got them on my Lowe's too. They're Jorgensen Easy Old. I'm not sponsored by anybody, it's just telling you what I'm using. And the reason why I like those, it's because the release button to open them, it's here. Versus this one, when the release button is here. So the kids have the tendency to kind of press together, and it's not going up or down. It's pretty frustrating for the kids. So this is what I actually love those ones. They come in different size. I usually use the small one for the little kids, and always want to make sure the tail goes to the bottom of the table so it doesn't get in their face when they do some work. And the kids are usually pretty good also to tie and unlace this. So once they have their wood clamp or whatever, they need to measure. So the measuring, it's a little bit of a challenge, because there's not too many measuring tape that's actually good for the little kids. So something here you do not want to buy is those ones that have the metric system and also the US system, because it gets too confusing for the little kids. They barely know their numbers, and there's too many numbers on this, too complicated. So the next one, it's also kind of complicated, is those ones, because they also have, you know, of the 1/2 inch, 1/4 of an inch, 3/4. It gets also a lot of numbers. It gets complicated. So the last one is probably the simple one, is this one who just have the whole number. However, if you look at this one compared to this one. They're huge in their tiny hands, so they're very hard to hold, or they're kind of heavy for a 3 and 4 years old. So I guess maybe sometimes not very practical. In the studio when I teach, I actually have those rulers. So if the kids is really a beginner with their numbers, I use those ones who just have the holes, and they know they have to mark their little V on each mark. If I see that they are a little bit better, I actually give them the one with a half. And if they're really mastering their numbers, like 4 or 5 years old, depending, they get those one with a quarters and 3/4. So that's what I've been using in the studio for measuring. So once they measure, then they need to cut their wood. So I use the saw, big saw. They call pull saw. They have some 3, I think it's like 3 teeth, very sharp. That's why they call shark saw, because if you put your hands in a shark mouth, you probably use a finger, the same thing. So I use those because I think maybe most parents or most teacher would think that giving not like a toy saw, but like something to your kids, it's likely that it's not going to hurt himself. And I think it's the contrary. If the kids needs to push and pull like really hard, this is probably when it's going to get hurt. So those saws have been working really well. They actually make some dust glitter wood when they push and pull. So every time they do one of actions and push and pull, they are able to cut. So really they can cut plywood, they could cut, I use pine in the shop because it's soft, but they can cut a tree, and the handle is pretty good for their 2-hand. So, and also those pull saw have like a replaceable blade, so if one gets damaged, you can actually change it. So this is good. Now, they do have different size. I think this is the bigger size. It's probably maybe 12-inch. But they do have also this one. It's a little bit smaller. You cannot really see it, but it's just a little bit smaller. So this one, I stopped buying it because I use the saw also for like 8, 9, and 10 years old, or even for me sometimes. And they have this little black part here. So if you cut something that is taller than this, probably like 3.5 inch, then it gets stuck. So I just choose to get those now. So I get them on Amazon as well. I put a link below if you're interested. Very good saw. If they need to cut some curves, I have those crawl saw by hand. Also, they can just go up and down and do their little zigzag. For little 3 and 4, 5 years old, they usually make straight cut with those ones for all the kids. So now they have cut their wood and they need to sand it. So I do not give little kids, and when I say little kids, I'm talking 3 to 6, 7 years old. Again, depending their abilities. I have some 3 and 4 years old that have been coming quite often. So obviously, they're a little bit better, but yet I do not give the electric sander to a 3 or 4 or 5 years old. So they use those little sanding block that I made with a 2x4, and I just staple like a little piece of sanding paper. I think it's an 80 grit. So they can just give like a little sanding on their little project, and they love that. So next, after they sand, usually they have to maybe hammer some pieces together. So same thing in the hammering world, there's different hammer for kids. So I have 3 here. So usually I have like this big, not big, medium hammer that usually for 8 years old and plus. They work pretty well. And then I have those little ones. So you see the difference, really smaller. So those ones are great for the little hands. The handle is pretty small for them to hold. However, sometimes the distance between their hands and their and the little plate here to hammer, sometimes it's a little hard with the coordination. So I have those one They are like even smaller, so that's a little easier. And then the little plate here is a little bigger, so it's a little easier for them to hammer. However, this one, the handle is a little bigger, so depending on how the child thinks, how does he do it. And next, so when they hammer though, we want to protect those little fingers. So I got those little things from Fisker. They're like little nail holder. So usually when they're little, the kids, I use some very big nail, like there's a big head on the nail. They're actually from upholstery, those ones. And then what they do, there's little holes, so they just put it in here. And then they will hammer. And then they can just pull this. So that works really well. Most of the time, I notice like the kids, they use this like at the beginning, but then when they feel comfortable, they kind of like to use their little finger, which is good also for their motricity, their little fingers. And then we arrive at the drill. Sometimes, many times, they love making holes, the little kids. So when I started the studio, I started to use those by Fisker. And they're pretty neat also because you can put like different size bits in here. However, I found out that even like 3 and 4 years old, trying to make a little hole to put like a little dowel or something, they have to push too hard and they're not really making any progress, and it's kind of frustrating for the little kids. So I upgraded, and I have many different ones, but the one that works really well is this one. It's by IKEA. The roughly like $24, I think. I think they're 7 volt, but they do have some 14 volt or 19 volt, I'm not sure. The battery is in here, and same thing, like they have a torque. You can put different size of bits. They have the reverse, and they work really, really well. So I have like 3 or 4 that I do a rotation because the battery for little project is fine. I do have 8 or 9 years old coming and building benches or table, and that works just fine, but the battery does get used quite fast. If you want to see, so this is the small size, like a regular kind of drill is way bigger, and what you cannot see on the camera, it's way heavier. So after 5 minutes, the kids gets really tired of this, especially if it's something they have to do horizontally more than vertically. And then if I go show you this one, it's even bigger. That would not work for like a 3 or 4 years old, but those ones works really well. I'm pretty happy with them, and they're again by IKEA, so highly recommend those ones. And then the last thing is, like, if they do a project, they have to use glue. I use glue by the gallon in the studio. It's amazing. So I buy gallons of glue, but obviously I'm not gonna give a big bottle to a 3 and 4 years old. So I actually pour the glue in those little container. They're very soft. I don't know if you can see that. So the kids can really press on it and use them for their project. So that's that. So I think I did a whole tour of what I'm using in the studio. I'm thinking if you are interested, you can subscribe to the channel, and I was gonna try to show you what project I do with the kids and hopefully get you going to woodworking with little kids, because they love it and it's so good for their self-esteem, and they're so proud, and it's very rewarding. So